Tank Davis versus Shakur Stevenson. Battle for supremacy at 135. Or are we forgetting about Haney and Loma? Oh, Loma on the thumbnail there. Hello, fellow fighters. I'm not too old. So we're going to be taking a look at Stevenson versus Tank today and breaking down how that fight's going to go, how I think it's going to play out, and, why. But we got a lot of clips to look at today. We got a lot. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. First off, you might think we're going to be taking a look a lot at the Clary fight here, but we're actually going to be watching mostly Stevenson versus Herring. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why once we get there. But first off, I want to show Stevenson is one of those guys that's always understood where the line is really well. When he gets near, he's into range, right? He starts probing here. And he's starting to give his opponent something to look at, something to interact with, because he knows he's in range almost to get hit or to hit his opponent, right? And getting to that position. And then again, just into snapping range, snapping into a stepping jab. 10 seconds into the round, by the way. But watch him move forward. He's going to pendulum here. And see how he stays on his pendulum just out of range, okay? We're just going to go back and look at that, but he's going to go forward. He's on the front foot. He's going to pendulum here, and he goes up, and he's waiting to come down to come into his punch. Again, the motion of down, up, and driving from both feet is always present. And this is one of the ways that Shakur Stevenson gets his momentum going up, controls the line, and waits off, and then tries to find a way into it. So here he goes again. He's going to do the same thing, trying to get to the line, and again, testing the line when he gets there. Here, right? Watch his head, right, as he moves forward, and he just starts to bring head here, and he starts pulling his head just back as his opponent comes to interact with the line with his lead hand. Again here, pulling back, getting to the line, and trying to get that momentum as he jumps up and down into his jab. And again, he's going to do that a little bit here with Clary here. But one thing I want to pay attention to, he goes in with the jab, and look at how poorly he reacts on the way out, okay? And this is going to be one of those things that's very, very difficult for Stevenson to overcome in this fight when we talk about it. What we want to talk about here is Stevenson, again, he is a very talented athlete, and he does a little bit of the two-foot punching theory and the two-foot punching work, but he doesn't do it all, okay? Now, the part that he doesn't do is the down-up when he punches, right? And that's why when you see him hopping around and penduluming here, he doesn't really know how to control his down-up motion, so he has to over-exaggerate those pendulum steps, these ones, to get his momentum going into his opponent, which is something that we don't see Tank doing as much because he's so much more aware that he needs to get his weight to the ground and get coiled and then spring up. And we're going to talk about that because Stevenson has his own version, or rather, his own use of the two-foot punching mechanic, okay? He does use some of it because every fighter, when they make it to the top, does something correct, right? Something, and it's usually along that vein. But one thing we want to talk about here, okay, he's going to get to the line. I think it's actually in the next clip here. So we're going to go ahead and move on. Here we go. Here he is fighting Jamel Herring. Okay, now this is where we're going to spend most of our time here, is on these clips here. But he's going to get on the line, jab, and then off the line. Now, this is important because this is Shakur Stevenson's first line of offense. Notice Herring start moving to the front foot. He gets attacked by Stevenson. Stevenson's on the line for a beat and then starts moving his weight off the line. Now, if we take a look at Tank Davis, one thing that he does is he has a lot of down-ups. After he makes an attack on the line, he's going to pull and get his weight down to the ground and off the line. But if we take a look at Stevenson when he gets to the line, boom, his weight pulls straight back, and it doesn't go down and up. Okay, and this is very, very, very important. Even though he's kind of stepping into the down-up, into the jab, he's not actually utilizing it and all of the things that it's supposed to be doing. Okay, now, a few things, right? And again, in that last clip, Stevenson gets to the line forward, and he pulls back. And he's going to get to the line forward, see where his head is, and then he pulls it back, right? Taking a small step off the line, and just making sure that he's not there for the return fire of his opponent, which is a very, very valuable skill. Now, as Stevenson comes forward, controls the line with that same jab, and now he's going to add to it. Now, once he gets to this position, he's going to step with the jab. He has his foot planted. He's going to drive off of both feet here, and he's going to throw this right hand. okay? And he's going to be creating a heel, knee, head structure, boom, and he's going to be able to drive his weight into that punch. Now, notice how he pulls his weight and he resets, okay? Boom, boom, and then immediately off the line, right? And again, he's not pulling with this motion. Okay, it's very important to understand that he's not resetting his weight in a way that's going to allow him to re-interact with his opponent. And as we go on in the film study, we're going to see why that's more and more apparent. Number one, pulling straight back. Okay, we can see him after making that second attack, jumps on the line 2. Same structure, pulls straight back, body shot, not much you can do about it. But now he's completely off the line for the follow-up from Herring, right? Pendulum stepping off the line, 1, checking the line with the jab, checking again, then smashing into that right hand, and again, moving his head off the line. Okay, so far, Stevenson showing a very acute awareness of where the line is, interacting with his opponent with the jab, and then moving off the line, interacting with the right hand, boom, or the left hand from Stevenson, and then notice where his head is, and then pulling his head back. And in all 3 of these right hands that he did in this sequence, he showed an acute awareness of where the line is and that he might be attacked on the next beat, which makes him usually, on average, very hard to hit, okay? And the thing is Stevenson does this really well in the beginning of fights, but because of the fact that he doesn't manage his motion with the down-up correctly on his snaps, and he doesn't pull and drive his weight down after making a strike, he pulls straight back, he fights his body mechanics, and this means that it's going to take him more energy to do these same sequences that another fighter who has better mechanics would take, right? I.e., Tank Davis, someone who has better mechanics. And that means that also that as the fight wears on, he's much less likely to exhibit the same levels of defensive responsibility after making an attack on the line. So notice throwing that jab, right? And sometimes after getting it going, he's going to sit on the line sometimes and get a little lackadaisical, okay? And this is a habit that he has that formulates for a few reasons, right? It's not just because he wants to stay close to the line so he can follow up his other sequences, and it takes a lot of energy to jump on the line. But it's because it takes a lot of energy for him to jump off of the line too. Okay, now, we're going to take a look at a few other things later, but again, a little bit of defensive responsibility, right? Regaining it, moving his head after the jab here. And now as he comes forward, Shakur Stevenson doesn't always respond well to punches. Okay, and this is going to be very, very, very important moving forward because this piece of defense here, notice when he's in this position, when you see 2 orthodox fighters in this position, this guy always gets knocked out. The guy who stays in the Philly shell but doesn't really Philly shell, doesn't really have his left hand up. The guy who has a good right hand, right? The guy Kovalev, right? Fought guys like this his whole career and iced them, right? And this is a habit that southpaws are going to have on average. I don't want to say more of, the worst ones, but they're going to exhibit this because in the open stance matchup, it's less likely that you need to have your hand up to block a punch from that angle, just because the punches don't really come that angle. It's not how it really works, and you can get so far off the line. But also, Shakur Stevenson's a guy who's been taller than all of his opponents his whole career. Ish, right? Ish. Not kinda. I don't want to say he's a weight bully because he's like, not really. He's, anyway. Doesn't respond super well to punches, okay? So his opponent comes here with the jab here. What happens if he follows up with a 2 here, right? Is Stevenson ready? Is he ready to crouch and get his weight to the ground and pull? Okay. Now here, jab to the body. What about Floyd Mayweather? Floyd Mayweather, Shane Mosley. Boom, one of the most famous punches of the 2000s, right? This is definitely something that Tank Davis is capable of. Throwing a 1-2, okay? And the problem with this, and we're going to see more errors with this style of defense and more errors of Stevenson and his inability to fight off of this position. But real quick, if you guys want to learn everything about 2-foot punching, you want to learn all the correct ways to do this, I've already created an entire combat system to teach you not only the ways to do this, the ways to train it, right? The ways to understand it, including film studies, including a bunch of my other students teaching and learning this all together, my own private group of students. They all have their own training videos that I use to teach and supplement their learning with. But I'll teach you how 2-foot punching works. I'll teach you the mechanics of striking. And not only that, And as we see in the video later on with Tank Davis's insane punching power, I'm going to be able to teach you what Tank Davis does with his hands to generate power too. Okay, as the first boxing coach in history to understand and learn and be able to teach the way that 2-foot punching works and the way that athleticism corresponds to boxing, and this is the way that mechanics. I'm also the first in history to completely understand how your hands work and what you should be doing to generate one punch knockout power. And I'm talking incredible amounts of power. Okay, so check it out. No bad reviews. I ask everyone who purchases it to put an honest review of the system, but nobody wants anyone to know that they bought my system, because everyone wants to pretend that they learned it themselves. But people like, here's a good one, the scumbag Precision Striking. That guy tries to teach my drills all the time. He's trying to teach 2-foot punching on his channel. Tony Jeffries, a little scumbag, trying to teach some 2-foot punching on his channel too. Yeah, anyway, it's created by me. They're all my original techniques. And it comes, the Fouts Boxing Combat System also comes with a complete pendulum boxing, 2-foot punching, shadow boxing series to teach you to start from the basics with the 2-foot punching system. Okay? And if you want, you can check out a lot of the drills on before I started teaching people that you use 2-foot punching. All the drills on my channel, I have entire heavy bag workouts to teach you how to do that. Shadow boxing sequences to teach you how to shadow box and how to start. And they're all 2-foot punching. The basis of the system is all the same. But the Fouts Boxing Combat System is much, much, much more complete. And a lot of it is very martial arts based in the theory of the 1-inch punch. And I'm going to teach you what the 1-inch punch really is, the way that you can do it so that you can generate the maximum amount of power with your body. And then I'm going to teach you how to increase that maximum power with what I call the Big George drill. Very, very, very technical details in there to learn to generate power, learn to do what you're supposed to do with your hands to not only generate power but incredible amounts of speed. Anyway, check it out. It's going to revolutionize combat sports forever. So check it out. Yeah, anyway, going into the next video. Now, Stevenson, once he gets going, sometimes he gets a little lackadaisical, down, up, right? He's going to get into the line. Boom, he's got the correct structure, drives into this punch. Okay, now he stays there. Okay, and he didn't move his head. And this is very dangerous against someone like Tank Davis, who throws so many pull counters. Okay, 1, 2 again. And now, from this position, after he throws the 2, 1, 2, he's got the weight on the front foot. He's going to drive from both feet here too. Same footwork structure. He hasn't changed position, transition his weight. He's going to throw the right hook. Okay, now this is the part of the technique that Shakur Stevenson is one of the best in the world at, even though he doesn't exactly understand what he's doing, which is why he falls off balance a little bit. He kind of over pendulums, but he understands that he's supposed to jump and drive his weight from both feet. Okay, so we can see him doing some of the techniques correctly. Boom, boom, boom. And it's enough, right? He's strong enough and he's fast enough, and he can do it at a world-class level that once Stevenson gets going, he's very, very, very difficult to interact with, because if he can hit you with the combination like this, often enough a 2-3 from somebody like this who can punch with both feet, even if they don't know how to maximize the training, they don't know how to maximize the concept, he's strong enough and he's fast enough and he's experienced enough that it's gonna drop you, right? Devin Haney put out a video with some guy Bradley, saying he could beat him in a street fight, and that guy would murder Devin Haney. He would absolutely murder Devin Haney. But Devin Haney said something: you've never been punched by somebody who can punch, a boxer, right? Most people have never been punched by someone who can 2-foot punch, and that's what Devin Haney's kind of referring to, a real athlete. Spoiler alert, Devin Haney, you can't 2-foot punch either. You're not a puncher. You don't punch hard. You might never punch hard. Who knows? I don't know what's going on in your camp, but you guys are not figuring it out. But notice he's not moving his head anymore. Okay, and this is a very, very, very important idea, 2, 3, because when you throw these punches and you're not moving your head and you're driving your weight from one foot, you're not moving your head very much. Okay, and again, against someone like Tank Davis, who actually has incredible punching power, because Stevenson is doing the 2-foot punching part correct. He's just not using any of the down-up motion. He's not really driving all his weight from the ground. He's using it all to be fast and snappy. Okay, and he can still punch you, or he can still crack a little bit, like a little bit, right? There's There's so much untapped potential in Stevenson, okay? But he gets to the line, and now he's checking it, right? And see how he almost got countered? I want to say he almost got countered, but his head's not moving here. He's coming forward, right? Countering here, nothing wrong with that. Beautiful counter to the body. Well, I just want to point out, this is a very important move because this is one of the only punches that Tank Davis doesn't counter well. And this is one of the only punches that Shakur Stevenson does counter at all, is a body shot. Okay, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but he cracks him with that shot, moves his head after. Beautiful. Sick. Now he gets on the line, 2, 3, and again, 2-foot punching structure. Gets on the line, weight in the front foot, front foot's planted, driving off the ball of the back foot, boom. And now he's going to keep the same footwork structure. And he's going to throw that punch again, but notice his head's not moving. Okay? And his head doesn't move after, right? He throws an entire sequence there. And again, this is the way that Shakur Stevenson separates himself from the rest of the fighters in his division, and from the rest of the fighters that he fights. This is the way that he does it. And this is a very, very risky style. This is a very, like a 90s style fighting, right? There's still a lot of power to be added by crossing the line, transitioning your weight. There's still a lot of striking things that he's not doing, but getting his weight into the 2-foot punching is correct. But one of the problems in the 90s, people didn't move their head a lot. And because of that, people didn't actually have a lot of engagements, which made boxing boring. At least Shakur Stevenson can get on the line and off the line really quick. You know, he's really, really fast. He has a great awareness of the line. He's just not the biggest puncher. He's fast. He's athletic. But this style may be very dangerous. Now, again, this scene is very, very, very important, okay? So getting pushed off the line. So we've seen how Stevenson likes to offend his opponent. He jumps on the line with the 1, jumps off. Jumps on the line with the 1, jumps off. Jumps on the line with the 1, hits him with the 2, jumps off. Jumps on the line with the 2. His opponent doesn't move, jumps off. Hits him with the 2, hits him with the 3, and then follows it up, right? And those are his only sources of offense. Sometimes he throws jabs to the body. Sometimes he throws left hands to the body. But he's not really pull countering. There's not a lot of games that he's not playing. It's mostly based off beating his opponent to the line and playing with that imaginary space, which is the line. Now, on defense, fainted. Push to the back foot. Is he in position to punch? His hands are down. Is he in position to punch? Gets fainted again. Almost gets hit here. Maybe a guy who's a little bit faster is going to hit him. When he comes back up to the line, does he counter? Because this is the position that a fighter would normally be pull countering from, right? Now take a look at this position. Floyd Mayweather didn't like to pull counter this way because he would pull straight back and go forward because he didn't understand how 2-foot punching worked either. Right? Early in his career, he was a 2-foot puncher where he would come forward, but later on he didn't develop the striking because his camp didn't understand how head movement played a part in the structure of your striking. Right? Just like Stevenson. There are a lot of things that Stevenson doesn't do that stop him from generating more power and momentum into his punches. Even though he does some of the 2-foot punching mechanics correctly. Right? He's kind of like a southpaw Pretty Boy Floyd. You know, and he doesn't have as much pop as Floyd had. But very, very similar. Now, Floyd Mayweather made a career once his career got going and he got high. He moved up to welterweight of ducking below the waist instead of re-entering the line from here because he got pushed off the line here and now he's supposed to come back with the punch or pendulum step off and now instead he's going to try to body up, right? The body up is not bad, right? But Floyd Mayweather would duck below the waist. He popularized this cheating, right? It's cheating. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to just disappear in the middle of combat through the floor where it's illegal to punch, right? But anyway, mechanically, that's the way that it's supposed to work. But notice, no defense, right? Just like Floyd. No defense for the punches, right? And, you know, when I'm talking about defense, he's not scoring on defense, right? A very, very, very important idea, okay? Now, which means that he only has his offense to score with, obviously. No defense, no pull counters, right? Again, Shakur Stevenson's not a guy that understands how 2-foot punching works. He does not understand how you're supposed to crouch and get your weight to the ground and then explode and drive from the ground. He's a guy who learned this stuff on accident, right? Now again, after the sequence, right? He's not interacting with his opponent, gets pushed off the line, pendulum steps off the line, boop. And then when he wants to fight, jumps on the line, 1, 2, 3. No head movement, same structure. A little bit of pendulum, right? It's a little bit varied because he's, you know, augmenting his position slightly. But his offense is very, very, very predictable, There's a lot of very varies. Boom, gets pushed off his line. Pendulum steps off the line, no pull counter. Gets to the line, controls the line, 1-2, 1-2s. Again, head all in the same spot, same footwork structure. Getting pushed off the line again. Boom, boom, same footwork structure. And now this part's really interesting. Okay, now this is a really interesting thing, because if Stevenson is going to be pendulum stepping off the line and not interacting, right, like we saw in that last clip, this one here, when he gets pushed off the line, I think it's this one. No, it's not that one. Is it this one? No, it's not this one either, is it? So when he goes to this position, right, when we saw, okay, he's going to go to that position here. Boom, boom, comes back. When he re-enters the line, he's not re-entering with any punches like a pull counter, right? But he's bodying up. Now, if he doesn't intend to punch, and he's not just jumping onto your line with the 1-1-2, with the 1-1-2 into the, or the 1-2-3, or the 2-3-2-3, he's going to wind up in this position, bodying up after pendulum stepping off the line quite a bit. And this is a position that, even though Tank Davis is not that great in, there's a lot of holes in Tank Davis's, this is a position where Tank Davis is very capable of landing shots like this on the inside. And Tank Davis is not the kind of fighter you can land punches like this. And Tank Davis, or Shakur Stevenson, thinks he's an inside fighter. He, there was a time where I thought Josh Warrington might beat him because of how bad Shakur Stevenson is on the inside. He doesn't know how to move his head. He kind of fights in that Philly shell when he's on the inside, where he thinks he's safe behind his shoulder here, right? But he's not safe. We see that there's a massive amount of his face that's exposed. And because, again, like I talked about with the structure of his punches, because of what little he understands about the structure of his punch, he's going to try to remain in a position on the inside where his footwork structure most correctly matches his ability to drive his weight into his opponent. Okay, so that's what he's constantly striving to get to here. He takes a step, he's trying to get his weight to the ground, right? Boom, he's got planted, and now he's getting hit. Okay, and again, he doesn't know how to make his footwork patterns match what he's doing on the inside, because he's not really an inside fighter. Okay, now this is very important. Getting pushed again. Now look, getting pushed off the line, right? Jamel Herring comes forward, jab, he comes under. Did he counter over the top? Did he slip counter that punch? No. Is he going to throw a hook to the body? No. He's just going to sit on the inside because he doesn't have any defense, right? Shakur Stevenson's not that kind of puncher. Pulls to the back foot. Does he not appear open for this punch here, for a counter? He does, right? We all agree. We've seen him be open for this punch multiple times. And Shakur Stevenson's penduluming, stepping off of the line. He's not re-entering the line. I want to point out, he's also not ducking below the waist, right? And then bodying up and then holding. Devin Haney, Floyd Mayweather. But we see the hole. We see the glaring hole there, right? Now again, if he doesn't intend to jump on your line and throw a 1-2-3, he's just going to body up with you. And this is a dangerous place for someone to be who doesn't know how to fight on the inside. Again, just getting clipped over and over and over. Missed that one, but easily clipped. And now again, he's not ducking below the waist. He's not blocking with his right hand, and he's not pull countering, right? He doesn't respond super well to punches. And Jamel Herring, who's not a very good puncher, is able to do this stuff. Now, you guys might be saying, well, Jamel Herring's really tall. Jamel Herring has a really long reach. Jamel Herring, reach is a function of distance, but so is speed. So if a guy is fast, he's going to be able to hit you from farther than you think he can. He's going to be able to hit you before you think he can hit you. And that's going to be very similar. And Tank Davis is, not only is Tank Davis faster than Shakur Stevenson, but I would argue that he's much faster, but he can also fight off of his probes, okay, which is something that Shakur Stevenson has shown he's not actually that good at, right, because he can't probe the line, pull, get his weight to the ground, dodge a punch, and then come back up with a punch. He pulls straight back, and sometimes he can go back into the line, right? With the jab, we saw him go back into the line. But because of the fact that that's not the way that your body works, that's not the way that he's going to be able to get punches going, okay? Now, again, getting clipped on the inside because he's not really an inside fighter. And again, these are some of the most important sequences for the fight, I think, for understanding. Oops. I think this is that 30-second one. Yeah. Okay. For understanding how the fight's going to go between Stevenson and, again, ducking, right? Pulling. Perfect position, right? And now he's going to explode. Body up. Didn't even control any space in that time. Right? Didn't even feint or probe. He just jumped into the line like that. He could be hit with a straight left hand right over the top. In this move here, when he comes in here, boom. This is a position that Tank Davis is going to be able to make him pay for. Right? And again, Stevenson has to explode with those 1, 2, 3s, drive his weight off the ground, bop, bop, bop. It takes a lot of energy to throw combinations and stuff like that. Again, same stuff over and over and over again, bodying up. Just very, very consistent patterns from Shakur Stevenson. And again, no counters, right? Now, we're going to be taking a look at Shakur's opponent, Tank Davis. And I think that Tank Davis, again, we have a lot of clips still, like a ton of clips. Tank Davis is going to destroy Shakur Stevenson. Okay, we're going to take a look at here. Now, this is one of the most important ideas here. Number one, if we take a look at Tank Davis's gloves, okay, both of his hands are up. Okay, number one, this rear hand is not going to sneak right. It's not going to sneak right onto Tank Davis's head. He's not going to be able to sneak it. This lane of traffic is closed. As he comes forward, look at Tank Davis's rear hand. See how it's near his chin, right? Stopping Hector Luis Garcia, from being able to land a jab on him or a stepping jab by keeping his hands close to the line to intersect it, to prevent Hector Luis from being able to hit him once he gets into snapping range, right? Once he's too close for you to react, right? This is a huge difference between anyone that Shakur Stevenson has fought before, okay? And this is very important because Shakur Stevenson uses so many stepping jabs and so many jabs to get on the line, okay? If that lane of traffic is blocked, that means that he's going to be able to start interacting with the rear hand, and we've seen how much effort it takes Shakur Stevenson to throw that rear hand by driving both foot, jump, and then smash, right, with the rear hand. Tank Davis is going to be able to interact with it. Now, again, getting to the line and controlling Hector Luis Garcia's lead glove with his rear hand, being able to get that catch going and prevent Hector Luis Garcia from setting stuff up with his jab, right? Beautiful work from Tank, again, interacting with it, reading Hector Luis Garcia's movement. Now, down, up, and then back, and then forward. And as he comes forward, Tank Davis is reading his weight, right? Forward, sees his weight coming, interact with him, right? Now, a lot of really, really important clips for Tank Davis here as we continue going. Tank Davis, penduluming forward. Now, look at the difference between Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson. Note Shakur Stevenson, very, very, very amateur, big hop, right? Pendulum walk, very controlled from Tank, right? Very controlled, boom, boom, very relaxed. And notice he has his hands in position to interact with the line, whereas Shakur Stevenson had to react on getting the ball of his foot to the ground and then pulling his head straight back. Whereas Tank Davis can pendulum walk forward, control the line while he's doing it, and then start interacting with his opponent. Beautiful, beautiful work from Tank Davis. Tank Davis is really, really looking forward. And again, very, very difficult to interact with him, right? Because he's guarding the line and not getting hit by the shot. Now, this is very, very, very important. Notice that jab comes. Tank Davis interacts with that punch. And what does Tank Davis immediately do? Do you remember what happened when Herring would come close to the line, or Toka Khan would come close to the line against Shakur Stevenson? He would pull away. Well, Hector Luis Garcia is in a very similar position. So once this jab gets here, he could explode into the two, just like Shakur Stevenson. But watch Tank Davis. He interacted with this jab, catch, pulls off the line, sees what's happening. What's going on here? I just got controlled. I don't want to get hit here. I'm going to leave the line. Control, peel. Just in case your opponent's going to throw two punches at you. Boom, boom. Right? And this strategy, this simple strategy, was going to make it much, much, much more difficult for someone like Shakur Stevenson to interact with him. Okay, now we're going to continue going. Again, we got a lot of looks. A little bit of pendulum steps from Tank Davis, right? Again, very similar to Shakur Stevenson, but much, much, much more controlled, much stronger from Tank. And this sequence here is very, very, very important. Here comes the jab coming from Hector Luis Garcia, right? Controlling him with the jab here. And now he's going to go around the guard. Let's show the jab one more time, okay? The jab coming out. Boom, and Tank Davis tries to interact with it, tries to catch it. Now it's coming forward, so Hector Luis Garcia is going to throw a hook, right? And that's just to get Tank Davis into position. He throws that punch, and now just like the last sequence, he got controlled. Tank Davis recognizes that he guessed wrong, and now he's going to start pulling away from the rear hand. He's already aware of where the line is, but he's aware on the second beat. Multiple layers of combat deep, okay? And Tank Davis is still ready to peel off the ground. Even though he got a funny look on his face, he's ready. And this is the difference between Shakur Stevenson and Tank Davis, is even though Shakur Stevenson can't do that and he pulls and he goes down, Tank Davis will eventually come back to the line with a punch. And Shakur Stevenson never does. And this is a huge, huge factor in the fight, because I want to tell Shakur Stevenson this very earnestly, okay? Tank Davis is going to be throwing punches at you. They're coming. And you better learn how to interact with them. Now, here comes Tank Davis getting to the front foot. Again, immune to the jab. He's guarding the line, both hands forward, right? Most of your coaches are going to tell you to keep your hand on your chin. If you keep your hand on your chin, you're going to get beat up. That coach doesn't know what he's talking about. He's never fought at a high level. He's only ever fought at a level where a guy can throw one stepping jab and beat you, right? That coach is not a good coach. He's not going to be able to teach you how to control the line. Don't listen to him. You have to interact with your opponent. Now, Tank Davis is doing some beautiful, beautiful stuff here, okay? He's going to interact with that jab, catch it, boom, right? Get a look at the line. You coming, bro? You coming? Come at me, bro. Nothing? All right. I saw you last time. You came with some stuff. You're not coming this time. Explodes into his jab after controlling the line. Beautiful. Look at where his head is right now. Look where his head is. He's going to get down to the ground here. Boom. Pull counter. Pendulum step at the same time. Bop. And he's ready to interact with the punch. Look at his eyes. Look at, he's ready to spring up with that rear hand and clock him. What an animal. What an animal, okay? In the first round, he's already looking to put himself in this exact same position that Shakur Stevenson found himself in on defense on purpose while moving forward, getting ready to interact with his opponent, right? In case he tries to counter his jab. Jab, are you going to counter? You going to attack this position? I'm not there anymore. And if he did attack that position, Tank Davis is ready to make an attack on the new line, right? On wherever Hector Luis Garcia's head winds up being. And this is going to be a very effective trap for Tank Davis, or rather this skill right here is going to be very effective, because even if Shakur Stevenson starts to learn how to interact, which he doesn't usually interact with his opponents, Tank Davis is going to have a lot of confidence to come forward and set up some of his more advanced sequences of offense, okay? And again, doing the same move, okay? Jab, look at where his head is, down, boom, 2-foot punch, drives into this, off of a pendulum step, right? Boom, pendulum, boom, down, up. And again, the core movements, right? Fighting off of these same patterns. All of this stuff that Tank Davis is doing, by the way, these are drills that are available on my channel. I'll teach you how to do them on my heavy bag. I have heavy bag demos or in the Fouts Boxing Combat System. Check it out. Again, this is all very, very basic. And again, catch, pulls off the line, right? Tank Davis, unlike Shakur Stevenson, is always vigilant. Right? He's always ready. He's always checking the line. It's something that, Tank Davis has a lot of discipline, right? A lot of discipline. I mean, he gets hit sometimes too, but on average. Now, Shakur Stevenson likes this punch too. Jab to the body, catch, right? Counter, okay? Now, this is one of the only punches that Tank Davis, I don't want to say, one of the only punches to the body he likes to counter, right? But Tank Davis doesn't usually counter body punches to the body. Now, he's doing such a great job up here controlling the line, right, that if his opponent tries to go to the body, which Shakur Stevenson likes to do, we can see him countering that. And we've seen that Shakur Stevenson's not really able to pull counter or make counters off of those moves, or fight off of his own jab, rather, right, which will be very, very, very important. Now, again, real quick, The hook comes, interacting with the jab here. The hook comes, boom, look at what side of it the line his head is on, and he's already anticipating. He never loses focus, doesn't take his eyes off his opponent, and he's already peeling away from that next move. Again, very, very, very important sequences from Tank Davis here. Very, very, very influential for the fight. Now, Tank Davis is coming forward, shoots the jab, stepping jab. Hector Luis Garcia slips it and throws a punch to the body. Okay, normally Tank Davis is waiting for the punches to the head. He's waiting to pull counter them. Okay, now this is one of those things where the pull counter style is less effective, I want to say, than I don't want to say the style of Shakur Stevenson, where he's 2-foot punching in combination, right? And that's what Stevenson is, right? He's a combination puncher. But because of the fact that he's throwing a body shot here, Tank Davis is not interacting with him the best way. And there's a few times in the fight where Hector Luis Garcia was throwing a shot like this, and Shakur Stevenson and Tank Davis did not interact with it well. And this is one of Shakur Stevenson's favorite punches as well against Jamel Herring and Toka Conclery, and he did really well with it. And again, Tank Davis down, jumps up with the jab, down, comes back into the line, and now this is where Tank Davis is really, really dangerous because he gets into this position, jab, pendulum, down, starts moving back to the line, right? Readjusts his feet just a little bit, and he's snapping into this punch here, right? And Tank Davis is super, super, super fast, and this punch is really, really, really hard to interact with. And this is very important because Stevenson doesn't keep his hands up, and that makes that punch much, much, much more effective once it is that Tank Davis can get into position, right? So as Tank Davis comes to the line, and now, round 2, first time, jab comes, pushes him off the line, Tank Davis moves off. Now here he comes, front foot, the jab comes, stepping jab from Hector Luis Garcia, pull, and watch Tank smash him to the body with the left hook into the liver, into the body, and then throw another left hand to the head. Look at these combinations, okay? Tank Davis is just way sharper. He hits way harder. He's just way more technically proficient. He's moving his head from one side of the line back, forward, back, forward. Just excellent rotation. So many of the things that he's doing correctly. And even better, he's interacting with his opponent's punches. He made it to this position that we saw Shakur Stevenson verbatim into, off of jabs, off of right hands, off of many, and Tank Davis is coming back to the line, landing huge, savage combination here, showing that he can do everything that Stevenson can do, but better, with power. Body shot, no chance to pull, right? Tank Davis, no interaction, right? Again, this is going to be a very effective punch for him, even though I don't advise Shakur Stevenson to throw this punch. I think eventually Tank Davis will figure out something to do with it and hurt him. But again, coming forward, Tank Davis edging himself into that line, throws that shot, pushes him off the line, jab, pendulum, and watch him snap into this shot. Again, Tank Davis just super fast, super sharp, boom, boom, and then right into this shot again. Once Tank Davis gets close to you, he's so fast and he explodes into his punches. And Shakur Stevenson's lack of defense, the fact that not only is he not going to block the punch, he's not going to pull counter the punch. Not only is he not going to block it, but because he's not going to pull counter it and counter it, there's no danger to throwing it and controlling the line like that, right? In theory, right? Now, this is just sick from Tank Davis. Coming forward, get the jab going, and as soon as he gets on the line, catching that position, back foot, takes a step forward, starts crossing the line, jab to the body, and once his opponent tries to interact with him, he's blasting into that straight left hand. Again, he's so quick once he gets into position to land that shot. Now, this is important because this is one of the only punches that Shakur Stevenson will counter, is a jab to the body. He'll probably counter a left hand to the body too. Herring didn't throw very many of them, like lead ones like that. But Tank Davis showing an excellent ability to counter here. And as we saw, Shakur Stevenson doesn't keep his hands up when he's exploding. And his structure, even though he does make it into a 2-foot punching structure sometimes, his striking structure on average is not good enough for him to be able to interact with people at this pace, at this speed. Boom, boom. Beautiful, beautiful shot from Tank. Okay, again, we still got a lot of clips Now, again, beautiful work from Tank. Again, this is something that Stevenson doesn't really do. Comes in, up, and he's going to go down, bring his weight down, and then coming back across the line. Hector Luis Garcia is a little bit taller than him, but there's a lot of down-up motion in this punch. And again, driving from both feet. Boom, boom. And he's got his front foot planted as he goes down here, right? And when he's here, he's got his front foot planted, right? His heel kind of whips around, but his weight is supposed to be centered here and heel planted here when he makes contact. Okay, he could still make this a little bit better, but again, Hector Luis Garcia a little bit taller than him, and the most important part here, right, is Tank showing his ability. Right, we've seen what happens when Hector Luis Garcia does not interact with the jab. Tank just pendulums on him and hits him. Right, and now he's going to try to counter the jab with the pull counter, and now his pull counter is getting pull countered. Okay, and Tank Davis showing again that he can fight off of his probes, fight off of his own punches. Okay, and again, that's something that Shakur Stevenson can only do in combination. He can't really set up pull counters or traps. He just has to hope that you're not going to interact with him so he can flood the line. Again, beautiful move here, getting another pull counter, getting real close, controlling him, pushing him off the line. Boom, pulling here, getting off the line, and again, back, and boom, blasting him with this shot. A huge, huge punch. And again, this is what happens when you start fighting Tank Davis, is you run out of ways to control the space because he can pull counter your jab, he can pull counter your rear hand, and if you let him just get close to you, he's just going to throw his straight left hand at you like we saw him do at the end of the third round where he jumped on him and just threw those punches. Again, Tank Davis slowly breaking him down and just dominating him, right? Boom, right hand, pendulums forward, again, pendulum forward, down, gets this close, blasting into this shot. Again, if you can't control the space, if you're not allowed to throw your stepping jab, you're not allowed to throw your rear hand probe, and there's no way to control the space against Tank, right? And now here's the thing. This is just how fighting works, right? The guy who has the better probes pushes you off the line, right? Gets onto the line, can hit you with snappy shots, right? He's going to be pushing you around until you stand on the line with him and fight him, and then he's going to start hitting you with big shots, right? But everything's going to be on the outside with probes until that point. Now, again, getting close. If Stevenson isn't going to be punching, if he isn't going to be throwing hard shots, jab, pendulum, gets close. If Stevenson bodies up here, he doesn't always throw punches here. He stays in the same position. Stevenson's not as tall as Hector Luis Garcia. He's not as big as Hector Luis Garcia. And Tank Davis is hitting him hard, clean on the inside here. Okay? Very, very, very important sequence because that one's going to be more and more common as Shakur Stevenson runs out of places to hide in the ring, right? If he's not throwing combinations, he's not pendulum stepping backwards, he's bodying up, right? And again, Tank Davis showing, pulling here, beautiful. So again, jab to the body. Here comes the counter. If Shakur Stevenson can counter the jab to the body, right, like this, he's still in danger from Tank because Tank manages his weight so well. Beautiful, beautiful work. Beautiful trap from Tank. Again, being able to fight off of his own jabs, being able to fight off of his own punches. Now again, if his opponent steps in and keeps his head in the same position, boom. And we see how Hector Luis Garcia's head is in the same position. He's going to make a 2-foot punching structure. His weight's planted on the front foot. Heel, knee, head, boom. Through the jab, he's about to throw the right hand, and his head's in the same spot. He's getting countered with the left hand over the top. Tank Davis showing multiple ways to enter the line here. Slipping the jab, again, very common from Shakur Stevenson. Boom, body shot, head shot. Tank, again, just miles ahead of his opponents. And again, this is that punch right there, being able to slip as he comes forward, will be a very, very, very effective tool against Shakur Stevenson. And again, down, up, down, blasting into that shot right there, and penduluming into it. And again, once you let him get too close, there's nothing you can do. He's going to snap. I think Tank is up. I think he's expecting a punch here, and he goes down and explodes into this shot when it doesn't come. But again, Tank is just so fast, you just can't stop him from hitting you. And he does land that shot. I'm like 90% sure he lands that shot. Yeah. Yep, he spins his head a little bit there. Okay, next clip, next clip. Okay. Now, much, much, much better jab into down, up, down, up, and driving from both feet here. Really, really excellent shot. And again, if you can't stop him from getting close to you, he's going to be hitting you with shots like that all the time. Excellent, excellent work from Tank. Jab, pulls off the line from that jab here. Jab, pull, right? Pendulums forward, body shot. 2-foot punching structure. His weight's on the front foot. Didn't really, and he does actually transfer his weight to the back foot when he throws this hook, so he could even throw that punch with full power if he wanted, and follow it up. But again, Davis's ability to fight off of his own punches. Here, following his own punch up. And then jab, pulling off the line, not getting hit. And then jab, pull, boom, boom, following up with counters. Just every variation of offense here from Tank, and dominating Hector Luis Garcia on the line. You know, and just not leaving a whole lot of spaces for a slower opponent to interact with him. I don't want to say slower like Shakur Stevenson's slow. Again, he can do everything that Shakur Stevenson can do. Front foot, boom, boom, front foot footwork structure, right? Gets his heel to the ground, planted, boom, and he's throwing both punches from the same structure. Excellent, excellent work. Boom, boom. And again, Shakur Stevenson doesn't react to punches very well. He gets stuck on the back foot, and eventually you're not going to see this coming. Jab, pendulum, boom, and he just explodes into this shot. Yeah, a lot of easy work. I don't want to say easy work, you know. Now, sometimes, I don't want to say Tank gets lackadaisical too, right? But this is best case scenario here for Shakur Stevenson. He's coming forward, blasts him with this shot. Here comes the counter, the second punch. Tank sees it coming. Tank almost sees this one coming. But more importantly, he's still interacting. Even though he got hit here, he's interacting here, trying to interact here. He didn't do very well. I think Garcia is going 2, 3, and then modifying where his punch is going on the last one to find him. Not a super hard shot. But that was best case scenario for Hector Luis Garcia. And now he's going to try the same exact thing, 2. He goes 2, tries to throw a combination, right? Just like Shakur Stevenson, 2, 3, 2, right? As he's coming up with the 3, boom, he's getting countered here, okay? This is a very, very common sequence for Shakur Stevenson. Boom, boom, countered him, gets under the next punch here. Fight him on the inside. Shakur Stevenson's not an inside fighter. Catch him on the inside again. And again, this sequence here is this is what it's going to look like as soon as Shakur Stevenson starts getting tired. Okay, it's round 4 with Hector Luis Garcia. And if Stevenson, you know, really tries to put it on Davis in the beginning of the fight and use a lot of energy and try to be, you know, I don't want to say fancy and flashy like Ryan Garcia, because Ryan Garcia tried to put it on Tank early, right? I don't want to say he wore himself out, but he probably didn't do himself any favors and definitely probably got a little bit of fatigue. Now, real quick, this is a beautiful sequence here. Here we have Tank coming forward, and look at him weaving through the line here, finding a way to go from one side of the line, controlling the line here, and then now again, once he gets into a position, control the jab, gets to the front foot. Back foot, controls the jab, gets to the front foot. Beautiful, beautiful work here, and smashing Hector Luis Garcia. And again, this is a very, very common sequence, I think, for Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson. Now again, remember when I talked earlier about Shakur Stevenson walking onto the line and not throwing any punches, not doing anything? Here's Hector Luis Garcia even stepping in with a punch and getting cracked. Okay? And this has a lot of transference because, again, Shakur Stevenson stepping jab. That's his first contact almost every time. Tank Davis showing that he can time that and land a really powerful punch. Okay? Now, if Shakur Stevenson tries to just body up with Tank, he's going to eat this shot as well. So there are multiple patterns of sequences in which Tank Davis is able to land this punch against him. I think that might be the last clip. Yeah, the next ones are private. Oh no, there's a few more. So again, the fight continues going on, right? Tank Davis freely jumping onto the line. Boom, pendulum, snapping into this shot. Good counters from Hector Luis Garcia, no problem. The fight continues going. Snapping here. Pull. Snapping here. Again, Tank Davis being able to fight through the flow of the punches. And again, once he gets into this position, right, I think he's going to have a huge advantage over Shakur Stevenson. I don't think that Shakur Stevenson is as good defensively as Hector Luis Garcia is. He doesn't have as good a head movement. That's definitely true. Yeah, and I think Tank is going to find him a lot easier than he found Hector Luis Garcia as well. Now, coming forward, lands a body shot, coming forward, snaps into a headshot, gets under this shot, eats a body shot, no big deal. But again, as soon as Tank gets close enough to hit you and you're not interacting with him, he is kind of eating a shot here, but he's landing punches as he comes forward, right? Again, Shakur Stevenson doesn't really have good defense, not really blocking punches to the body, right? Again, Shakur Stevenson or Tank Davis doesn't not to the body, and again, snapping into the shot once he gets closer. Beautiful pull, right? Body shot, doesn't react well. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Now again, snap, 1, 2, pull, comes back with an uppercut. Again, get your way to the back foot, boom, crouch, down, get that front heel planted, drive off the ball of the back foot. He's kind of whipping it. His foot's kind of coming off the ground a little bit. He could do it a little bit better. But most of the mechanics are correct. Most of the mechanics are good. And Tank Davis, again, showing that he can do something that Shakur Stevenson absolutely cannot do, come back to the line with a power shot. Right? And again, that's a huge, huge difference between these two guys. That's the difference between Canelo and Gennady Golovkin. Gennady Golovkin couldn't counter. He just, for some reason, fell behind on points, even though we knew he was the harder puncher. We knew that he was, and even in the third fight, I'm not even sure he was the harder puncher, to be honest. Okay, moving on. Now again, how do you keep Tank off of you? Coming to the line, he's controlling the lead hand, comes to the line with the rear hand, right? Watch the flow, boom. Tank is controlling Hector Garcia's lead hand. Now Hector Garcia is going to bring his rear shoulder to the line and watch Tank Davis. Tries to interact and block, right? Now he's going to go back to the other side because now it's the other. And then even during the sequence, right? Back on the line, jab, pull, counter, right? Aggressive pull counters, guys. Just beautiful, beautiful work from Tank. And that might actually be... Okay, here's the last sequence. Oh, that was the last sequence, yeah. Okay, so I have this fight as a wash for Tank. I think Tank is going to beat the crap out of Shakur Stevenson. I think Shakur Stevenson is, you know, man, how do you say this? He just has too many flaws. He trains with too many people that he can just kick their ass, you know, or people who want to go easy on him. They don't force him. You know, I don't want to say fight the doghouse, you know, but you learn to keep your hands up. You learn to move, right? You know, and I don't know all the stuff about Shakur Stevenson's training, you know, to be honest. I've seen some of his sparring, and usually it's pretty good. But a lot of it is done first contact, right? Like, oh, I got you with the first punch. I won that sequence. I got you with the, got you. Right? And that's not how, you know, I don't know. That's exactly how Tank fights his, right? Tank definitely does a lot of pull counters in his sparring. Anyway. Shakur Stevenson doesn't have any defense, right? He's no opportunity to control space on defense. He just runs off the line, hopes not to get hit. He relies on his speed and his ability to punch in combination to control the line once he gets close to his opponent. And I think that that'll be tailor-made for Tank Davis's pull counters. It'll be tailor-made for Tank Davis's ability to probe the line with a jab or a rear hand and then set up pull counters and continue sequences. Right? Tank Davis's ability to control the line in one beat, pendulum step forward, and then attack and control the line in the next is going to separate him. It's going to give him much, much, much more opportunities for offense, as well as his ability to pull counter, which will give him opportunities to offend his opponent on defense. So Tank Davis, I think he has just, you know, too many opportunities to score points against the more limited Shakur Stevenson. And even Shakur Stevenson's best attributes, Tank Davis is just better at. So, anyway, if you guys are interested again and you want to learn the absolute best way to learn how to fight, to learn how to control the line, to learn how to generate power with your 2-foot punching structure, to use your entire kinetic chain to generate power. If you want to learn the system, the first system in combat sports history to teach any person on the planet, man or woman, true punching power. Not just the mechanical side, but once you figure out how best to use your weight and use your body, again, every person's body is exactly the same. Okay, once you figure out through my videos how to do it, I have drills to teach you to increase your punching power as well. Not just untap your full potential, but increase it. Okay? Check out the Phelps Boxing Combat System, revolutionary 2-foot punching series, weaponizing the 1-inch punch. Yeah, thanks guys.